Hello and welcome, ladies and gentlemen everywhere, to the Maryville University broadcast of Upsurge Premier League Summer Week 1 matchup between, of course, Maryville University and Supernova Dark Matter, two of the top teams in the amateur scene, coming to clash for our entertainment tonight. We're going to get into that in just a minute, but first, some introductions. My name's Rebel Fox. Happy to be back with all of you lovely folks in the chat. Alongside me, two of my great friends from the amateur community, Nick, one of the best broadcasters handling the stream tonight, and a new face to the Upsurge Premier League community of casters. I want to welcome him to Upsurge. I want to welcome him to Maryville, and I love if everybody gave him a warm welcome. Ben Fawcett, otherwise known as Z. How you doing, my man?
I am doing great, Rebel. Thank you for such a wonderful welcoming. I feel so blessed to be here right now, and it's going to be a great stream to get through. But with that, though, pick and bans are live. We've already gone through the first rotation of bans here. We've got Glista Trundle Gangplank coming out from Supernova Dark Matter and Varus, Syndra, Orin, respectively, from Maryville.
Doing some research, knowing that the Gangplank has been one of the top champions coming through from Niles as of late, not to mention the Varus, the Orin, the Syndra, the Trundle, all highly meta picks that are coming through here. Also to make note, today it is Maryville not running with Iconic, they're running with Kind in the jungle today. That is an important distinction, so might see a little bit different of a champion pool coming into this one.
Other than that, though, Supernova securing right off the bat into the top lane, picking themselves up the set. Definitely going to secure themselves some early game pressure up there. Curious to see how Maryville's going to respond, but it looks like in turn they're starting to secure the bot lane for themselves, making sure Value has that Aphelios on his tool belt.
That's the case. Certainly a strong champion for them. Value has loved this Aphelios through most of this kind of like immediate start to the season here in Amateur League Legends leading to the scouting grounds. That set could still be flexed into the support role, into the jungle, something along those lines. The Sejuani, on the other hand, is not. That is something you don't typically Iconic grab, and Kind is a lot better at. So having the Sejuani come through here, comfort for him, something powerful that he can work with, and something late game scaling, a lot of CC to work with. I love the pick here.
What I love is the response immediately here hasn't been locked in, but it would be no surprise to hear Zyle here lock in with that Gragas. I would actually look, yeah, okay, that's going to be the Jarvan instead. Equally as good as the Gragas, a little bit different, more team fight oriented, not really focusing on the displacement, more of the lockdown, which is what Supernova has set themselves up for here with these set Senna and Jarvan specifically.
Yeah, and a lot more focused on the early game in the jungling as opposed to something like the Sejuani, which doesn't always get active on the map. The Jarvan also not super critically under threat from the Sejuani to take a 1v1 any point in the early stages of the game, so that does scream at least a little bit of early game dominance. Now, the Thresh coming through here, shady special. Anything with a hook, that's got his name all over it. Usually it's the Nautilus, but the Thresh, got to appreciate that one. Good for repositioning the Aphelios, great pick potential, great pick for Maryville.
Absolutely, and it's definitely going to do well to manage the Aphelios, get them to the point to that mid game where we can see the pairing start coming through and some of those team fort-oriented presence for Maryville start lighting up. Other than that, though, Morgana and Jace going to be the first bans here on the second rotation.
Yeah, the doubling down again on the champion pool of Niles here by taking the Jace out, knowing that he plays a very mean Jace on the opposite side, making sure Morgana's not there to pair alongside that Senna in the bottom side of the map. It's something that can take the farm if need be. If you want to go for the fasting Senna, can set up picks with the W, things of that sort. Protects the Senna with the Black Shield, all around a solid support / ADC, whatever you want to call it in that regard.
Absolutely. To finish it off here, we're going to see the Volibear and the Aurelia, which has actually received some sudden buffs here in these last couple patches, so no surprise there, and it's also one of the favorites for Maryville. In return, though, a little bit of the meta here coming through. Azir going to be locked in for Wolf in the mid lane.
Yeah, not shocking. Likes the control mages. Pretty strong, pretty high priority in the meta right now. Corki is a good response to something like this. The Victor is something that can match it in the laning phase, but doesn't likely win that laning phase up against the Azir too often. They are going to take it. That late game prowess of the Victor is huge, and especially the zoning control, something like the W, the Gravity Storm coming through, makes it so easy to control around neutral objectives if you're the first one there. And right now, with the Jarvan, with the set, feels like that's what they're gearing towards.
Plus, it'll definitely help scale through with Supernova as they transition some of that early game power that they have to something a bit more securing towards the mid to late game.
will. I think we're going to end up seeing either a top or a support come through here as the last pickup. It is going to be the Tom Kench. Yeah, just hiding. Again, the set could have been flexed down there. Potentially, Tom Kench is going to be the grab to make sure that Spider has everything that he needs, or Gabex, whichever one of them is playing that Senna in this one, and the opposition has the most optimal champion to play alongside it. What we're looking for here is a top lane counter pick into the set. It's been on the board the whole time, but again, we didn't know where it was coming from. There's a number of choices, but Renekton is the one that comes to mind for me, is that it does beat the set in the laning phase and does pretty well.
Plus, Niles has shown prowess on the Renekton in the past, so no surprise there seeing that locked in. Going to be a pretty skill-based matchup, in my opinion.
That it will. Like I said, I think in the earlier stages of the game, it's one of the few champions that can take the set matchup in a 1v1 just because of its ability to shred shields, the stun early on, very good for trading, and the Q sustain is also quite nice. That doesn't mean that it guarantees the win, as you said. It's more of a skill-based matchup, but certainly Niles on a Renekton is not something you usually want to be staring across from.
Absolutely, and kind of rotating down now, we've already discussed the top lane matchup. Looking towards that jungle there, we discussed a little bit the Jarvan having a bit more of that early prowess. In my personal opinion, though, Sejuani brings more of a fight to some of these team fights, and I think Maryville could come out on top if they manage to scale through that early game and not let any bleedings happen.
Certainly a bulky champion, something that's going to farm a little bit more, and it can supply a lot of additional CC and even quite a bit of damage in its own right to lanes that already have setup for it. Something like the Azir can set it up with a nice shuffle. The Thresh in the bottom lane with the hook can chain CC somebody, especially when you're talking about a Tom Kench and a Senna. If you catch the Senna out or a Tom Kench without cleanse, something along those lines, it's very easy to bring down one of these champions. So Sejuani might have the ability to get into the lanes, but avoiding the Jarvan, I think, is going to be key. Making sure you're not going to get counter ganked, you're not going to go down to the earlier game duelists, things like that. Also, the Renekton could be a point of contention. The set doesn't have a lot of escapability, and the Renekton does do very well with Sejuani stacking that passive.
And it'll be a lot of a waiting game for Maryville as they wait for Aphelios and Azir to get to the point where they can truly respond to some of the lockdown potential that we see from Sejuani and some of the other heavy CC targets that they have for themselves.
I would say that's the case 100%. Especially, like I said, in that mid lane, you're not going to be seeing a ridiculous amount of action early. Both of these champions tend to take a little while to get the damage down. I do think, again, in both the top and the bottom lane, we could see action between the junglers. In the bottom lane, you're going to expect it out of Shady. If he can't make things happen, if the Tom Kench Senna is playing too defensively, has the summoners up, expect Shady to be out on the map, but that's a point where the Senna and the Tom Kench can look to aggress onto the Aphelios. We've seen Value have a tendency to get on his own, go into a side lane, things of that sort, and play a little bit more individualistically than we've seen most ADCs do. And then we have Shady, of course. He's the one running around the map trying to make plays happen. So he and Khan jungle, they can make that chain CC work. They could get the Azir, the Renekton ahead very easily.
Speaking of rotations, looking a little bit at that mid lane, we talked about it a bit. The Victor, not quite the favored pick here to pull into the Azir, but I am curious to see how Spearaxe is going to play around the map because the Victor, like you said, with the Gravity Cage, has so much setup potential, especially around some of these neutral objectives.
Yeah, I think early in the game, the Azir should have a lot of pressure in the laning phase. The Q is a little bit harder and a little lower range than anything the Azir can bring out, so the trading potential for Azir is a little higher early on. So again, I think it's about getting Victor into the place where A, his Q is able to be hit on Azir without just getting burst for half of his health bar, and B, getting him into the situations alongside Jarvan, especially at that level 6. If you throw a Cataclysm and you've got a Gravity Storm on top of somebody, they're really very unlikely to get away from that situation. So in my mind, Spearaxe isn't going to have his success in the laning phase. He's going to have it in the skirmishes, in the team fights, and in the late game, he can side lane a lot better than something like an Azir can. His split push is very mean.
True. Plus, we'll have to see Maryville have that Azir more in tune and ready to respond to some of these team fights. Can't be held up in some of those side lanes, so he definitely has free range in regards to that.
That's the case. It's actually crazy. Both these teams are running very similar compositions. You've got aggressive early top laners that like to dive into fights. You've got CC-based junglers that tend to get pretty tanky unless Xyle opts to go for more aggression. You've got scaling mid laners. In this case, Azir's more DPS. Victor's a little bit more burst-based. And then you've got two new ADCs, both of which are very good team fighters that have the capability and some supports that provide some protection for those ADCs in team fights. We've got very similar compositions in the way that they're going to play out. And so we might actually see a relatively identical game from these two.
Well, that is the hope, but at the end of the day, it's really going to be up to these two teams and how they play it out. So for a week one game, it's actually going to set a lot of the pace for both of them, in my personal opinion.
That it will. These two teams have been playing. They played in BIG. They played in the LWL qualifiers. Both have had their successes and their limitations, as we've seen in the early season. So taking a win off your opposition, especially one like this, one of such high caliber, is a big source of momentum, not just for this, but for other leagues as well.
Absolutely. And with some of the cards up the sleeves for both of these teams here, going with your standard and most basic comp that currently is in the meta right now, seeing which team can actually pull it off better, that does have a lot of precedent behind itself.
That it does. Coming down to something like this, again, one substitution of a champion that's out of the meta, one counter pick that comes out of nowhere, something along those lines, might make the difference for these teams to make these plays happen.
Absolutely. Well, with that, though, Rebel Fox, I believe we've given the best analysis that we can for these two teams here. But with that, we're going to be going through a short loading period as we get through some of the setup here. So with that, stay tuned as we bring you what will be an exciting Game 1. All right, welcome back. Getting into Game 1 here of Maryville University versus Supernova Dark Matter. Both of these teams, like we said, a bit of the separate equivalent matchups. So here's see how they'll start off. But other than that, it's just going to be pretty standard across the board here. Nothing too crazy.
Yeah, I'm not seeing anything crazy, especially in terms of like keystones. I love to look at those to start off the game. I saw press the attack on Aphelios a little bit recently in some of the amateur scenes. I never agreed with it. I think Conqueror is the absolute like best rune for him right now, especially with the changes. If you're going double zeal itemization, you need the extra damage supplement, and the healing's always nice because they took that off of his Severum. So you're definitely going to appreciate that one. You do also notice it's Conquer for the Jarvan. Sometimes you see Electrocute, sometimes you see things like that. Kind Jungle actually.
Gibble running straight there into Kind Jungle, looking to see if they can possibly get a stun off here. Does come through, but Kind is very low. Forced to flash here now. Curious to see if Xyle anyone wants to follow it up. Wolf has rotated. Looks like they're just going to take the easy flash there in the intro.
Yeah, I think they might have been able to follow that up, but the face breaker was on a pretty high cooldown early on. So the flash coming through from Gibble probably wouldn't have been available to use that face breaker for CC, so they didn't feel comfortable. Still, they get the flash out of Sejuani early. It's not as valuable as something like Gragas flash early on for the ganking. The Q, the W still available, especially when that level 6 hits. That's a very good ganking tool as well, but certainly a hit to the Sejuani, especially if the Jarvan wants to get aggressive. There's no escape that can come through from Kind Jungle if the EQ is available to follow that up.
Yeah, and we talked a little bit about the counter jungling potential of Xyle on this Jarvan here, so that's always going to be kind of the mindset now for at least the next 5 minutes. Other than that, though, everyone is pretty standard here across the board. No one taking any aggressive lead so far.
Correct. I do want to make a note, again, whenever I see this matchup individually, when it comes to a hook champion, something like the Thresh into the Tahm Kench, I almost always see Cleanse come through from Tahm Kench. He went Ignite in this one. I don't think that's the right choice for Gabex. If a hook or a Flay lands onto him, especially if he's got Spider Queen in his stomach, it's going to force out the flash. There is no other defensive summoner, and Shady is an insanely good Thresh player and an insanely good hook user, so you got to think that that's going to happen at some point during the laning phase.
Ooh, there is the death sentence into the Flay. Gabex already taking low, forced to flash after hit with that Ignite there. Almost like you read a book, Rebel. Almost like you read a book.
That's what the cleanse is for. You're basically a purely defensive champion for the Tahm Kench. You have no reason to have the Ignite up this early on. Unless they want to get super aggressive into the likes of the Aphelios and the Thresh.
Ooh, stunned out there. Guyble going to take a huge trade meanwhile.
He is. Nothing too crazy. Wasn't able to use the Grit either there, so the Haymaker didn't end up landing onto Niles, which would have been a nice play.
Another death sentence land with the Flay. Going to pull Gabex back there. Value pushing pretty far forward there. Going to take a bit of brunt of action from the Spider Queen as a result. No follow-up to finish that.
That's correct, but again, the hook's been landing constantly. Ooh, a gank from the Jarvan coming to the bottom lane.
Jarvan coming in here, looking to see what he can do. Going to launch forward with the flag drag, but a great lantern from Shane. Turns it around with the death sentence. Nothing else, but you've got Kind Jungle and a teleport coming through here now. Callum going to be hitting the Spider Queen. Meanwhile, Wolf immediately launched there. The Flay from Shady going to pick that up. We see Gibble with the response, teleport, but a bit too late.
That is really well played there from the side of Maryville. Again, they try to make the play onto the bottom side themselves. They get the TP out of their top laner, so Gibble in a pretty rough situation for himself. Now either has to back or walk top lane when the cheat back had come through from Niles as well, getting himself an extra longsword. And beyond just those two backs,
value.
Wow. They're playing chicken right now with the rest of this lane. They know these members are around. Got to play a little bit more carefully, but
he had the lantern available, so no problem there. Finally, though, we do see the back coming through from Gibble. Niles here does have a bit of that early aggression now in lane to get that wave in the way and position that he wants, of course. For now, nothing else. Still have Xyle, bot lane, looking to come in here. Flag and drag with the Flay, gonna knock up Shane. Meanwhile, the stun about to come through from Spider Queen. He's too far back. Xyle gonna be picking up the kill there for Supernova Dark Matter.
Man,
good response, foul. Nah. No, almost.
Yeah, he was not willing to let that one go at all. He just stayed in the back of his mind right there, knowing that they had lost the first blood, and he was just pissed about it. So he stays around the bottom lane, even with the wards up and available for the side of Maryville, and they press just a little too far forward, trying to collect some farm. Niles, however, has gotten a massive freeze on the top side of the map, so this Renekton is going to be all too easy to play into the likes of this set right now. It is already a CS advantage of 11. He has the longsword as well for some additional damage, and again, the wave is on his side, and he's got his jungler up there. Right now, this Renekton is looking like he has all the resources in the world. He's
gonna go in there. Force the flash out of Gibble immediately. That stun is gonna come through. Now it's gonna follow up with another additional stun there. Gibble got full stacked grit. That's all they can do there.
That is, he loses the freeze, unfortunately.
Lose the flash.
They do burn the flash, which is quite nice. Yeah. And again, the Sejuani and the Renekton combination is quite good for locking down CC. Again, the stun does give you the stacks of the Sejuani passive to throw an additional stun afterwards, but they lose the freeze there, which I think is a little bit frustrating. They lost a few minions to the tower. Niles had an advantage, and they didn't quite get the kill, so a little bit lost there.
Good death sentence. Even though you couldn't follow up, it just does not bode well for Supernova to keep getting hit. on the bot lane here by Shady.
The hooks don't stop, man. This is what I was talking about before we started. He plays Nautilus a lot, he plays Thresh a lot, and you can see why. He's just so good at the champion. And like I said, I don't know how much success he's going to have into this bottom lane. It's going to be difficult to kill the Tahm Kench and the Senna whenever they have some defense up, something like the heal, something like the flash. So in my mind, if they can set up value to get on his own, put him in the mid lane, put him in a solo lane with a wave pushed in as far as they can, then getting this Thresh out on the map combined with Kind Jungle would probably be the best bet, because it's more likely that you find a kill onto the Victor or onto the set in the top lane.
Absolutely. Other than that, we're seeing a bit of the slow down here. Zyle had made his way back to the bot lane, but he was spot out meanwhile from some of the wards there, so nothing to come out of that. One thing I want to point out here is how aggressive Maryville has gotten to play through and through across the board here. A lot of the priority going their way.
Yeah, the initial play went to them, so they were able to make the initial play, and then they got...
Another death sentence into a play. Gavex with a good swallow there. Spider Queen going to be able to get out. A root comes in turn, but Severum from value with the lantern. They're able to get out. No flashes burned meanwhile.
It's a tough lane. Niles gets a little bit of trade on the Gibble top lane. Again, like I said, the Senna and the Tahm Kench work so well together because again, it is an insanely difficult combination to actually make anything work against. You get a hook against the Senna, doesn't matter because you are eaten by the Tahm Kench. But fortunately, without TP from Gibble, they have pushed them underneath their own tower, and there's no response coming through from mid lane because again, Azir's got priority. That sets up this dragon in a very easy way for this team. So the first dragon, they get some Mountain Drake going the way of Maryville, basically just off the back of some pressure they applied onto the bottom side. And yeah, the farm's still going the way of the Senna and the Tahm Kench at the moment, but that's not a massive deal. They get at least a little bit of the dragon control to start the game off.
Yeah, good for Maryville in regards to that one. Niles here going to run straight into Spirit's going to see the Dominus and Chaos Stone respectively. Zyle, though, with a great flag and drag in response. Spirit's taken very low, though! Niles going to pick up that kill in response. He's able to heal up, but now the chase continues too. Bot lane here, good play on the Gabex. Meanwhile, they're going to use the Spirit to get themselves out. As Kind tries to get a knock up, forces the double flash there. Spider Queen going to be swallowed there to save the day. No kills go either way there. And meanwhile, Niles gets out of the escape there, does not go down on the top side.
Absolutely crazy. Usually I'm astonished by when a Renekton hits a Q and it heals him for half his health bar, but he just dealt like 400 damage to Spirax this early on into the game. I know he's got some AD, but that was absolutely crazy. Not to mention the bottom lane play. I can respect what was just happening. So the double flash was committed by the Senna and the Tahm Kench, because I think there might have been a gap in communication there. Spider Queen, I think, was trying to flash the Q of Kind Jungle to make sure that Tahm Kench didn't get caught up by it. But again, both of them flashed at the same time, so he was under no danger for that to occur. I don't know whether that's the case, but again, now you've got none of those defensive summoners bots, so now Shady can potentially start making those hooks count, making some of the plays that they need, hence you see the shift to the mid lane. It's a little bit harder to make the play happen in a shorter and kind of a harder to access lane.
They're slow there, going to force the Shuriman Shuffle out of Wolf. No surprise. Here's to see the rotation here from the bot lane, respectively. We're going to see both of these two posted up in the mid lane now, respectively. Ooh, close death sentence. Shady here feels like he's got a magnet for a hook.
He does. That's why you don't give him hook champions, honestly. I am a little surprised they didn't go towards the Nautilus, because the Nautilus has been pretty popular. Again, when it comes to repositioning the Aphelios, it's a lot easier to do with something like the Thresh having the Lantern. Team fighting, though, again, is very, very kind of favored towards the Nautilus. He's going to spot out the immediate play onto the Rift Herald, but right now it's a 4v4 topside.
Oop. Their death sentence not quite going to come through there. Shady does not want to let this one go, though. They're still looking to chase this one out. They're going to put all their pressure now onto this Rift Herald. Curious to see the response potentially from Supernova. I'm
looking for potentially a play. Okay, they're not quite able to make the play into Wolfie, so Wolfie shifted faster, but they had the pinch from the mid lane. I'm surprised they didn't go for a play there. I know they know he has his flash and his wall up, and they weren't able to actually outnumber towards the Rift Herald, so no play happens. It looks like they're going to shift this immediately to the top side. Bottom lane is in the middle of the wave, so you don't worry about that one. You see the rotation from bot lane. This actually is a huge outplay in terms of macro.
Yeah, Niles going to get dived in immediately. Death Sentence comes through with a Dominus. Dawning Shadow was used to try to save the day. Probably going to be the one to pick up that kill there, but a lot expended. Now Zyle looking to make a response here, potentially save the turret. Going to use the flag, get the knock up into Kind Jungle. Going to be responding on the Gravitum is down. Does not matter. He is blown up, but a good Cataclysm makes a return as he picks up Kind Jungle.
Yeah, most importantly, Kind Jungle's the one with the Rift Herald there too, so they're not able to just immediately break this one. You see the Azir.
Gonna be immediately the Chaos Cage. Great use of Emperor's Divine, that Shroom Shuffle there. Spirit's now trying to make the escape. Does not matter. MF Wolf, very nice for himself there.
Okay. I don't really know what that was from Spirax. I think he just thought, he's not going to all-in me, and then he just did. So, not much you can do about that one. He might have thought if he throws down the ultimate fast enough, maybe this very slim margin of the silence that would come through, usually it would disrupt something like a Vel'Koz ultimate, might be enough to disrupt his E so that he can't jump in, and then immediately you can stun him up with your W since it's already on the ground, but clearly that was not the case. Wolfie just walks away with a free kill.
Well, a lot pairing out here for Maryville. You see Niles taking the aggressive stance here. Bilgewater going to be used from Gibble. He wants to pull it off. Isn't able to hit the haymaker there. Zyle. Take it out. A little bit of poke here. Trying to contest some of the ward and the vision here in this mid lane. For the price of his health, of course.
That's the case. And he can't engage there because there's Sejuani sitting behind the Azir, so that's why Wolfie is going to feel more than comfortable sitting there taking that one. Bottom lane's both sitting now. They continue to swap the Victor and the bottom lane as much as they can possibly to make sure that Spider Queen and Tom Kench still feel defensive despite their summoners being down. They just got heal back up, so eventually might be more willing to take the 2v2. Let's see if a play can be made on the Victor. Nope. No. Yeah, Shady's going to be forward.
Yeah, got caught out there by a little bit of the vision there. Does not mean he's going to let up anytime soon. You do see the rotation from Zyle, potentially. Dragon is up here within the next minute or so, so we could potentially see some contention there.
You might. Again, with the Victor on the bottom side, which is the opposing bot lane, you would expect bot lane to get pushed out by the side of Ariel.
Zyle. Straight into Kind Jungle. Going to be stunned out immediately. You see the rotation from Wolf coming through. Spider Queen comes to the rescue there. No one able to follow up respectively.
They're not. Niles does continue to bash away at Gibble. Look at that. He's got a 2-level lead.
Ooh, Showstopper used in response. Now he's going to throw down the Dominus immediately. Oh! Whoa! That is just gross. I thought that was it. Under turret caught out does not matter.
Yeah, if I recall, Niles is actually known as a set magician because when you see a set, he makes it disappear. That's just what happened underneath of his own tower right there. That was absolutely unreal amount of damage. Even crazier is like Gibble ulted him underneath his own tower. Now
gonna pot out, Spile to grab him, forces him to flash the box. Meanwhile, you see that Abyssal Voyage come through, but nothing to follow up on.
Well, there's not. Nothing consistently. They are able to break the fight very easily. Shady doesn't have to follow up on the pull. Now Rift Herald gets dropped to mid lane. No one there to defend it. The bottom lane's trying to get there fast enough, but I think the Rift Herald's strong enough to break this tower. I mentioned they still have Fire in the Dragon.
Tries to apply some pressure there. He's able to take out the Rift Herald, but he's not able to prevent the turret from going down. At least he prevents any additional push there.
Yeah, and Wolfie throws down the Sun Dial, I forget exactly.
Sun Dial, Sun Disc, yeah.
Sun Disc, that's what it is. He throws down the Sun Disc, they have priority in the mid lane. There's no way to push past that whatsoever, so they get just free reign on the tower. Again, bottom lane pushed in the Victor couldn't go anywhere, nothing crazy.
Maryville just running the board here on the Rift tonight, making Supernova just... It almost feels like they're literally running back and forth constantly at the whim here, Maryville.
Yeah, again, it's come from just a few plays that have come through from Kind Jungle. Both junglers have put quite a few resources into the bottom side of the map, and right now, mostly Kind Jungle has gotten the better of that, just due to the fact that they're burning the defensive summoners from the side of Dark Matter a lot more often. And again, Gibble also got abused very early. Just a few individual little plays that came through from Niles, from Kind Jungle and Niles, the combination of the two, led now to a 37 CS lead, 2 kills as well. Right now, you're talking, that is a 2,500 gold lead for just the Renekton alone. This is a lane we expected him to win, and he is certainly capitalizing.
Oh, and he does not care. He's going to run straight into Spirax. You see the Chaos Storm thrown down. The Gravity Cage not quite going to work. Zyle responds, but he flashes forward, gets the Sun, takes out Spirax respectively. Going to use that Lantern to get out as we see Gibble with the teleport. There's a full follow-up there. Death Sentence not quite a hit, but the stun does land. He's rooted. Meanwhile, good play there as he pulls off Zalmion. The Cataclysm going to come through as he's locked down. Kind Jungle trying to pull through. We see the Moonlight Vigils now picks up the kills. We see this drop over the wall. The kill's going to go over to Gabex here. Now Spider Queen getting absolutely torn apart. The flash comes through with the Death Sentence from Shady. Spider Queen is able to heal up here, but Shady's not going to have it. Takes her out. Meanwhile, Gabex looking to escape here. We do see the Calibrum hit, but it's not enough for value.
The reinforcements were able to get there fast enough for the side of Maryville to turn that one as best as possible, but they're going to lose 2 kills. I think eventually it was just a 2-for-1 for them, which is a lot less than we would have thought they would get. Still, I mean, little by little, they're able to inch their carries a little bit more forward. They got the shutdown onto the Renekton on the side of Dark Matter, but you pick up another kill for Value. You get a little bit more gold into this Aphelios, and he's going to be an absolute menace. Again, Value's Aphelios in the late game looks so terrifying, and as he starts to break into the Zeal, into the attack speed, that's when he's really going to start to look good. Not to mention, Spider Queen's got good stacking right now, but just doesn't have much in terms of itemization to work with. Also not opting for the Umbral Glaive to start with. So you can't push back all of this vision right now that Maryville has pushed into the Dragon Quadrant on the bottom side. That allows them to push up as much as they want. They have Renekton there. Nobody can contest this Renekton. You can't contest him in the lane, and you can't bring a jungler down because he sees him coming from a mile away.
Shady here looking to push up. You've got Kind General dashes in there, not able quite to pick out Spider Queen there. It was a good attempt here. Gibble playing it pretty aggressive, just straightening it out. Just sitting there. Throws out the face breaker. Gonna finally push him back. Does not matter though. Gibble immediately gets shredded in response.
This man stood under his tower and took harassment for like 5 seconds and just gave it all back immediately. That was almost disrespectful.
Was not having it.
Yeah, not having it at all. It certainly did more than enough damage to that tower as well. Just the Demolish proc alone was a huge chunk of damage, and they're bringing Jarvan down to the bottom side. But again, this is free reign for top side. So long as the Renekton doesn't go down here, they get a free Rift Herald, and they can look at the push top lane or mid lane any point. They can also save it for the upcoming dragon that's going to come through and try to push this to Soul Point.
Is just disgusting. 2 dragons, 2 Rift Heralds. Maryville has controlled the whole game here. Looks like there was a sudden pause there, but it's all good. Everything's continuing on. And that a lot of the champions here I'm seeing from the side of Supernova, especially in regards to Geibel and the Spider Queen respectively, you've got kind of this feast or famine mindset, and as a result, being stunted and pushed back so much early has left them with little to work with in regards to cross the board here.
Like I said, I think that Zyle had put too many resources into the bottom side of the map, maybe not enough to try to make sure that the set was at least competitive with the Renekton early on into the game. And not to mention, he built into the Blade of the Rune King, which is not going to help him at all. The Blade of the Rune King is far more effective onto the likes of the Renekton pick here, and it doesn't help him for team fighting. Black Cleaver, Gargoyle Stoneplate, any of those items would have been better to go with early on once you knew you were going to lose. Instead, opts for Blade of the Rune King is stuck into a subpar itemization that won't even help him win the duel because he's just going to get out-damaged anyway. So that's kind of the unfortunate aspect of the early game that came through from Gibble. You got to feel for him again, just constantly getting destroyed by this crocodile.
Yeah, I definitely think it's just so many little things have now stacked up that you've got this massive lead in favor of Maryville here. You have to think that it wasn't some massive event or some team fight that just flipped it all around. It was just the occasional pick, the occasional flash taken out. Now here, though, the Bork Gibble just going to be hit immediately. Sees the shield come through with his grip. The Dawning Shadow going to protect him for a little bit longer. Finally, Wolf picks up the kill there for himself. Now Rift Herald getting thrown down. Going to rush through the spot lane, potentially pick up inhib.
Yeah, they're easily going to be able to match the pressure that had been put on top side. Zyle's not going to be anywhere near able to stop the 3-man push from the Renekton, the Azir, and the Sejuani. They've got Rift Herald to supplement this, and they've got their bot lane, mid lane to look for something, as well as the Dragon up to just fall back to.
Ooh, Zyle there. Cataclysm straight into Kind Jungle, but he does not expect the damage. Going to be saved by Gabex swallowing him there. Kind Jungle now going to be hit by the Chaos Storm. Spirits picking up that killer's response. Wolf and Niles respectively get out of this one. Surprising, though, Supernova picking up that kill there. A great Cataclysm there.
Yeah, fantastic Cataclysm from Zyle's going to lock the Sejuani from being able to run away. Kind Jungle, unfortunately, not able to. And they can now look to contest for this Dragon. They've got the Smite on their side. I think that's the one best thing about this. They went a little bit too far on the side of Miracle.
Zyle, Flag and Drag. Niles there. Gonna get the steal, but not before he pays with his life. We're seeing Moonlight Vigil come down. Chase ensues here from the side of Maryville, but they're not able quite to catch up there.
Yeah, it was that Wolfie did not have his ultimate readily available, so he couldn't set up any sort of shuffle to break this fight whatsoever. So he couldn't push out the Jarvan, or he couldn't push everyone else into the pit to look for something. And so they were relying heavily on the Moonlight Vigil. The gun setup wasn't there for value. They ended up just losing the Infernal Drake again. A little bit of over-aggression onto the bottom tower, trying to break that one. Cost the life of Khan Jungle, cost him the Infernal Drake. It only stalls the game a little bit longer. They still have the 7 or the 6,000 gold advantage they're currently rocking, and they certainly still have priority all over the map. But losing that Infernal Drake might still not be a great thing. Again, that stalls the game an extra 5 minutes without Soul that you could have used very easily to finish this game quickly.
One thing I like to point out here, Supernova has kind of made their way back into their own jungle, got some of that defensive warding going for themselves here now. As Maryville has been pushed off, respectively, you're starting to see a bit of the control and pacing go back their way here now.
That's correct, but we do see Maryville continue to creep into their side of the jungle, just making sure that they push up their ward line slowly. This is something I know that they do very often, like very, very often, especially when they are winning games. They're able to push their ward line up much better.
Niles here. Yo, he throws down the Omsi. He does want to take this fight straight there. Shows the showstopper. Gabe's going to swallow, save the day. Now he's rooted. It's 4 against 1. Meanwhile, Niles is proving fate wrong. Finally goes down to the hands of the Spire Queen, but meanwhile, Maryville picked themselves up an uncontested Baron.
Like, you have to know that that was going to be the call coming through with 4 members onto the bottom side. You utilize that Tahm Kench ultimate to pull the Senna down there, make sure she gets the kill, which is all well and good. Certainly it's going to get the Senna into the later stage of the game faster. But this Baron buff, you're looking at a lot of towers that are still out on the map. The mid tower is nearly broken. In fact, I think it might have been broken in some... Hold on really quickly. Yeah, it was actually broken. So the mid inhibitor tower is all that's left. The bottom inhibitor tower is almost dead on its own. All you've got left is that top inner tower for outer towers around the outer edge of the map. But that's going to go down to this Baron very, very easily. So, like I said, 1 kill, 1 shutdown for a Baron buff. That's definitely going to destroy at minimum your outer tower, if not your base. Like,
it was not a battle I was looking to pick or choose if I was them, and it's definitely going to stack up against them now here within the next 5 minutes or so. So, what can you do?
Like I said, if that's their game plan, if their game plan is just to try to slingshot Spider into the point where he can basically solo carry the game alongside this Victor once the damage comes through from them, they need to be able to sandbag this game a lot harder. Right now, I don't think the wave clear is quite there for them to be able to push off Baron minions just infinitely at the moment, and they're definitely not going to be able to protect the top tower, at least the top inner tower, up against that Renekton. And the problem also is, again, you're going to force fights on the side of Maryville towards this dragon, and I doubt they're going to be able to get a pick onto Khan Jungle every time that a dragon comes up to get the smite steal.
Right. Looking pretty aggressive. Meanwhile, continuing to put the pressure into this mid wave as they send Niles onto that side. Finally going to delete that last remaining inner turret, hopefully.
Now that inner turret's going to be
death
gone.
sentence.
Oh.
Spire Queen getting caught out. The Moonlight Vigil came out, but only hit Gabex. And that is a wonderful save there from Tahm Kench.
Well played again. Main reason.
Ooh, Spirits, we see the Glacial Prison going to land into Gabex. That's another ult pulled down. Flag Drag response with the cactus and the Force Flash. Immediately the box comes down as they slow down Gibble. Full stack, great Haymaker. Gonna be hitting the Renekton here, but D's gonna go and gonna get knocked out by the Flag Drag. Meanwhile, the stun comes through onto the center, flashes out. Emperor's Divide from the side here. Wolf can be rescued with the Lantern. No kills go either way.
Not at all. A lot of resources used on both sides. That was a pretty insane fight. You saw a couple of different frontliners, but I think the main reason that we saw that fight not get any kills, Value got jumped on very early by Xyle, and that forced him out of the fight, or at least further back in the fight than he would have wanted to start things off. Gibble also was in a pretty rough position. He took quite a bit of damage, but eventually Value getting pushed out cost them. Wolfie has good damage, not great damage quite yet. He's now getting to the point where he's going to start pumping out that damage, but before this, not able to get that 1-8 to the level that he wants with the late game is here. And because of that, they don't have the DPS to just tear through everybody underneath of their own tower. So that's the problem that they ran into. They're just going to utilize this Baron buff to push in waves and get the dragon. I don't think it's a bad call, but it is unfortunate that they weren't even able to break a tower with this Baron buff. They should have at least gotten that top inner tower to make sure they have all 6 of the outers, but not going to be the case in this one.
Either way here, Dragon going to be up on the map here shortly. Curious to see if we're going to see a bit of contention come here from Supernova. We do see the Abyssal Voyage used. Meanwhile, Niles going to be targeted out here. Chaos Storm going to come through. Flying Drag not quite going to hit. He's going to use that mini way to get away. We see the flash come through from Xyle. See another poke come through the slow finally from Gavex. Gavex going to be the one to actually pick up the kill. Meanwhile, they opt to give that Infernal over to Maryville.
Man, they really just don't like Niles. They're taking all that early game that Niles was giving to Gibble, and they're giving it right back to him in this later stages. Again, they give up the Dragon. In this case, I don't think it's actually that bad of a trade. They do force Soul Point, which is an unfortunate aspect if you don't feel like you can fight on the side of Dark Matter, but certainly getting another shutdown onto the Renekton for your team, getting more kills onto the members that need it, certainly a positive thing, certainly something that you can at least you can hang your hat on that. Yeah, try to get something going your way. You can take those fights.
Because potentially there's going to come the fight where you literally cannot lose it, and you got to have as much under your belt as possible. So opt to give up, you know, what you can until then. So it's definitely going to be either this next Dragon or the next Baron, though.
I'd say that's the case. And again, with the towers that are still standing on their side, they might have the wave clear once the Victor picks up another item, once the Senna gets a little bit more, that they might have the wave clear capable of pushing off second Baron. I think that the Dragon point, the Soul Point, is really where the team fight is going to start to come in, because if Aphelios is going to be able to pick up double Zeal itemization alongside his Infinity Edge, as well as having the Infernal Soul, there's very little you can do to stop that, especially because he supplemented his healing with another Vampiric Scepter.
Ooh, Death Sentence. Zyle going to use the Gargoyle Stone Plate immediately there. They back off. In response, Arcane gets a good root. Just a little bit thrown back and forth. Nothing picked up.
Not at all. It's just a little bit of trading back and forth in terms of some defenses. You got the Gargoyle Stone Plate at least, and nothing really much from the other side. Again, you're using Shady as a way to fish for some sort of pick, because both these teams right now, if you get a pick, you pretty much guarantee an objective. With the Baron coming up, they're trying to push their vision forward.
Ooh, Death Sentence not quite going to hit there. Here's see if there's going to be much of a follow-up on that one. Meanwhile, you still have Niles pushing in this bot lane consistently. He does have teleport available for whatever team fight breaks out here, so always something to keep in mind.
The important part about that side lane matchup right now is that Spirax is running not only like a ridiculous amount of farm, and he has wave clear to deal with the Renekton, but he's also got cleanse, which is a really important thing. If he gets stunned up by the Renekton, you can still get away afterwards, especially if he hits you with the Blade of the Ring King Frost into the stun. You can cleanse both those off. Very, very simple stuff to be able to get away from that one. That's why they've got him. The problem is, again, if that continues, if that's a continuing trend to throw the Victor into this Renekton lane, the problem is going to be that Niles has TP and your Victor does not. So a fight can definitely occur anywhere else on the map.
Shady, meanwhile, Kind Jungle, they get the play on to Gavex there. They're not looking to follow it up. Individually, just some poke back and forth here. Neither team willing to give too much. As you said earlier, one pick could potentially mean the end. We see the Emperor's Divide used from Wolf there. Defensively, teleport going to come through from Gaival all the meanwhile. Curious to see how far Niles can now push this bot wave in while Baron goes contested.
I think easily he gets that inhibitor tower. They're just looking for the fight to try to get something. Spider Queen's going to move forward.
We see Abyssal Voyage coming through there. The Cataclysm is able to pick up Kind Jungle, but he flashes out of that one there. All the meanwhile here, this first turret going to possibly go down into the inhib here. I don't know what Supernova. They did their best to try to look for a pick, but it did not work out in their favor.
No, it did not. I think they could have definitely faked right there if they wanted to try to pull that off, but it looks
now,
like some of the
Kind Jungle here potentially looks for the stun there on the Gavex. We see the flash for their Shade, not able to pick up the hook. Moonlight Vigil comes down as we see the Glacial Prison Swallow come through there from Gavex to save the day. The Chaos Storm is down. Niles does have Dominus Ring available. Massively thick flash over the wall to take down Spirax. Now Niles here. He does not have to worry. We see that Sun Disc come down for a little bit of defense. Wolf is rooted all the meanwhile, but like we said, with one person down, this objective is all but free for Maryville.
Yeah, Spirax right now is a very good majority of the damage coming through from the side of Dark Matter. Bringing him down is crazy. As you said, there's really no other way to describe it. That was a thick flash coming through from Niles. Nice shuffle attempt. Spider Queen flashes out of that.
Whoa! That heal just barely saved the day there. We see the Dawning Shadow used in response. Either way, Wolf just holding the wave here, putting the pressure down so they can obsess and grab that Baron for themselves. Either way there, that was very close.
Great timing also for this Maryville squad. They just pick up the Baron. They can push out mid and bottom wave, and they can work their way towards the Infernal Soul. And with the buff they've got on them, as well as this massive gold advantage they've accrued for themselves, including actually not a double Zeal item, but it's actually Bloodthirster coming through from value to make sure if he gets dove on, he doesn't just get bursted out. He's going to be able to sustain through anything. So now, as long as they push these waves up, push out the vision like we've seen them do time and time again to set up these neutral objectives, going to be all too easy for them to grab that one while their Baron is still up. And that is going to be a difficult prospect to deal with for the side of Dark Matter.
Yeah, Infernal going to be ripped apart here. Niles and Kind Jungle doing good pressure out here. We do see that Death Dance. The stun comes through. Does not matter. That's going to be the soul for Maryville. Got that Infernal on their belt now. And with the Baron, it's all but a clean push now.
Yeah, you could say things, I think, for the side of Dark Matter just went from bad to badder.
Shady with a great Death Dance. They saw him in that bush. It's going to go over to Wolf. And now with 4 members on the board for Supernova Dark Matter, there's not much left in regards to their defense.
Yeah, going to be able to rotate top with this Baron buff, with this Infernal Soul, will be all too easy for them to clear the wave. Take off that one. Renekton's going to stick around in the mid lane as well, so Niles going to be able to push that one. So now they're going to have all 3 inhibitors down. There's no Xyle for another 30 seconds as well. This likely could be the end of the game, or at minimum, crippling damage for the base of the side of Dark Matter.
Absolutely. Starting to see that mid-wave push in here. This could potentially be, and it's definitely going to be the 3 inhibs now taken down for the side of Supernova. Have to deal with the double-stacked minion wave now for the rest of the game here. They're still looking to push these waves in continuously with a little bit of poke there. That's going to be the first Nexus turret going down here. No defense just of yet. You see the stone plate come through. Going to see the launch board. Kind Jungle being hit by the Cataclysm. Shady, meanwhile, stone plated. We see Geibel deep in the back line there with the showstopper. Meanwhile, though, finally the Moonlight Vigil comes out, and Ophelios picks himself up the triple kill. Niles full aggression here, rooted. Meanwhile, the Spider Queen gets the return kill there. They potentially look to dive Fountain. We see the Glacial Prison. Doesn't matter. The Shuriman shoulders take him out as the Nexus goes down. A game 1, supremely well done from Maryville.
Time and time again, Maryville, they were able to make the macro play on the map that would secure them the most gold. They got either a play into the top lane, denied a couple waves from Gibble here. They were able to sacrifice Niles for 4 members for an objective on the opposite side. And time again, it worked over and over and over. It started with that first play. They were the first ones there. They defended what they needed to in order to make sure that their play worked. And it just never stopped from that point. They were able to press where they needed to on the map to make the plays happen. So they continued to grow their gold advantage, and it spiraled out of control.
So what was a great snowball led to a beautiful victory for Maryville. Now they look to finish this one out potentially in the second game, or we could potentially see Supernova Dark Matter come back and wow us all. With that, though, we're going to be going to a short break as we get everything set up for a beautiful game 2. Stay tuned. All right, welcome back. Getting into game 2 here of Maryville versus Supernova Dark Matter here in the Upsurge Premier League Week 1. After what was an incredible game from Maryville, now Supernova looks to defend themselves in what could be potentially their last game here tonight. We've already got pick and bans underway. We're in the first set here. Jarvan, Aura, Syndra, Varus, nothing new across the board.
Not at all. Got to take the Cinder and the Varus off away on the red side. And we see the Ornn ban away. Again, that was a Maryville specific special ban, and they're keeping that one through and through. I do like the Jarvan ban. I think Zyle was really good at it in the last game as well.
Additionally, we do see the set come through there. That is not going to be pulled through as well. Surprising, though, since we're wasn't too crazy. But thankfully, Thresh is going to be looking to be this last ban here in the first phase. And with what I saw from Shady there, it's literally no surprise.
It makes me think that they could go for the Aphelios here, but they could also just run with Misfortune and Nautilus in that bottom lane if they're going to do that. Now, it looks like they switched it to Gangplank. We'll get confirmation that that's the ban at the last second. It's a GP ban. Yeah, that's going to be what's coming through here. Yeah, it looked like it switched at the last second. Didn't quite get it locked, though. So that's a Gangplank ban, not a Thresh ban.
Which is kind of crazy to me, given literally there was so much pressure across the board applied from Shady time in, time again. I'm surprised Supernova weren't really willing to push it through. I definitely think the Gangplank, I guess, is just a bit more scary. Either way here, the Trundle not being banned out allows that to fall into the hands of Maryville.
Again, Kind Jungle should have more than a presence with this Trundle. He did well with the Sejuani last game, despite not having the massive early game that a Jarvan does. He was able to stay relevant. Now he's got his hands on arguably a more meta jungler who also gets tanky and ganks pretty well early on. It does duel really well early on too. The pillar specifically, in my mind, impacts the mid lane so heavily. You throw the pillar behind the enemy mid laner, you sometimes burn a flash. There's like a 20% chance you burn their flash just off the back that they can't get away if they don't burn that flash early on. So I'm excited to see that one. We see the Misfortune Nautilus this time coming through from Supernova as a preemptive counter to something like the Thresh coming through.
With that, though, curious to see what the response will be from Maryville. I mean, the counter, if the counter to Shady is literally having to outpick his champions, that's some pretty disgusting moves.
It is. The Aphelios is still available. I'm not shocked on that one. And the Leona actually comes through. I was going to say maybe the Morgana, but the Leona is still a very strong champion, and it was traditionally the counter to the Nautilus very early in this year. It does open up the Aphelios to some aggression from the jungle, which is my one fear, but we'll see what that wants to be. Again, an Elise would be something very mean that Zyle could run that would do very similar things to the Jarvan with a lot more damage and pick potential.
Absolutely, and definitely could be the counter pick here that is available for themselves. With that, though, Supernova opts to lock in the Azir. We're going to see that again here. Or no, that was on, I believe, Wolf last time. So he's going to actually switch it up and play their own kind of medicine against them.
But they will. Gonna look at the Corki band. Zoe's also a really impressive band. Wolfie is a very good Corki, or my apologies, very good Zoe player. And the Corki is, again, it's a pretty standard meta pick right now, something that matches the Azir's damage. I think the Azir's laning phase is perfectly fine into it, but certainly the roaming potential from the Corki is what you're really afraid of. The Zac gets taken away. Again, you want to take away ganking junglers, you want to try to protect the Aphelios as best you can, and since they've locked in the Azir, you're not going to see a ridiculous amount of roaming, so really jungle is what we're going to see Maryville come through with. I am surprised they went with her like a ganking tank player as opposed to something else. The Zoe, again, not shocking me to see banned out. Again, Wolfie is absolutely amazing at that champion.
Absolutely. So a lot of pressure pulled away from the mid lane here on Maryville. A lot of due respect towards Wolf. He was able to pull out that lane pretty well and lead into some very nice setups for his team. So good to see that come through. In regards here, no surprise if we see, like you said, another jungler come through. I'm curious because that's going to be a lot of what we watch for with Supernova. Their pressure will definitely be applied from that aspect. Gragas, another great pick to get rid of there.
Yeah, I like that one a lot better because there's good damage that comes out of it, great ganking potential, and it's not really that tanky, so you can't, like it's harder to play the Trundle's late game into it as opposed to something like the Zac. Looks like the Kindred's going to be picked up here. Again, that's actually Iconic, who is the starting jungler for Maryville's counter pick into Trundle, and I'm not shocked to see it grabbed here. It's a very solid pick in its own right. Oh, we might get the Xerath.
Lore battle? That's how I like to see it. It's definitely the lore battle.
A lore battle, something along those lines. Well, the thing is that we saw, especially in the 2019 championships, he did lock the Azir. He played it himself. Wolfie was a very big, poke mage player. Again, the Zoe, things of that sort. They get that, and it looks like they're running that entirely. They could get the Jace for Niles as well. Another massive comfort fit for the side of Maryville.
Maryville has picked up a lot of priority here within this draft. They've got some tools on their belt that they are just willing to use here. Supernova now looking to pull through with the counter in the top lane.
There's plenty of things that work into the Jace. The Malphite, it does give them a lot of engage and does actually hurt against the Jace quite nicely, but it doesn't have the same kind of just pure early game aggression that you could shut a Jace down with. Yeah, I was thinking more something along the lines of Renekton. Aatrox is certainly in that vein of champion. I think the Jace is fine in the early game against the Aatrox. The Aatrox will eventually get to the point where the sustain is really high, so you might see an early Executioners from the Jace to deny the healing on the Aatrox to make sure that laning phase goes in his favor a little bit more.
Either way here, looking to see how it scales up respectively. In regards to kind of this bot lane starting there this time, Supernova have provided for themselves. I know it was the counter pick, but it is definitely a very strong combo to work with into the Aphelios and Leona. If they're able to pick and hold down single target based, there's not much the Leona can respond to, especially if you start throwing in the jungler to the mix. So I definitely expect to see a lot coming through from them in that regards.
I'd say that to be the case. Like I said, Maryville's running with the Leona. They have a lot of forward pressure to work with, but they also have very few defensive tools to work with. The Jace and the Xerath are going to be relatively vulnerable, but these are guys that know how to play their champion rather well. It's going to be difficult in the late game if you see lethality on the Jace, if you see the Magic Pen and the AP start to stack on the Xerath, that these new champions will be chunking the Azir, the Kindred, the Misfortune for half, maybe even more of their health bar. I think the last time we saw it, the Xerath was chunking Misfortune for 75% of his health bar with just the ultimate. So it is absolutely nuts if you get to that later stages. And Wolfie's not really the guy that's going to play mega aggressive early on. He's not going to try to solo kill Spearaxe over and over again, but he is going to scale. He's going to get to the late game no matter what, and you're going to have to play around the Xerath.
Absolutely. So a lot of actually a bit more damage presence in this game as a whole. There's not so much of that front line that we saw, something like the Tom Kench ran last time, or that Azir, or even looking out on Supernova with something like Set. So definitely a bit, I wouldn't say it's going to be a bit more of a bloodbath, but there's definitely some more opportunities for things to go bang here.
I would say that's the case, certainly. I'm excited to see the Kindred pick come out here. Again, the reason why I think a lot of people like it into the Trundle is because, you know, obviously your Q allows you to get around the pillar a little bit better. Your W is a great way to add that Q mobility onto your thing. Your E is a slow to prevent Trundle from just approaching you with that W, something along those lines. And most importantly, Trundle, in order to counter another AD jungler, something like Lee Sin, something like Jarvan, has to hit his Q, which is an auto reset, and it drains AD. That's a lot harder to get against a ranged champion, especially if Zyle's got something like red buff. So it's a lot harder for Trundle to straight duel the Kindred early on when you've got sustain, when you've got mobility, and when you've got ways to slow the Trundle down in his tracks.
And one big thing to remind you is that even if Kindred doesn't pull through in much regards, Lamb's Respite constantly defies fate then again and again, and brings it almost to what I would even consider a 50-50 battle, even if you're behind. So that's something I love to constantly watch out for, and it could actually even some of the odds here and some of these discrepancies that we're starting to see in a bit of the skill-based matchups on these champions.
Yeah, I am a bit afraid about that, though, because in a typical game, I'd say that'd be the case. But what you're looking at on the opposition from the side of Maryville is you've got Xerath, whose poke is going to be up every few seconds. Doesn't matter if you win the 1v1 in that Lamb's Respite or you get out the backside, Xerath's going to hit you with his ultimate, his Q, something from a billion miles away and kill you anyway. It doesn't matter. Same thing happens with, say, Jace. The E Shock Blast, if he catches the right angle, he's going to kill you on the way out anyway. So you almost have to use that as an aggressive way to set a standpoint so you can get forward with Azir, with Aatrox, with Nautilus to give them space to work into the Xerath and the Jace.
I mean, like I said, it's the 50-50. It's not so much about saving the day. It's more so setting yourself up so you're kind of on even footing. Either way here, that definitely looks to be one of the more major applications here. One big thing, though, I do think is that Maryville has set themselves up in regards for a bit more scaling potential. You've got the Aphelios and Xerath, of course. That Jace is going to become a monster as the game goes on, especially in the hands of Niles here. That's going to be no surprise. I definitely think Supernova has to make the aggressive plays and get their hands on the Rift this time rather than the reactive play we saw last time.
I'd agree with that. And I would say the way to do that, play around Spider Queen and Gabix in the bot lane. I love Spider Queen. He's one of my favorite ADCs across all of the amateur teams. I think he's insanely talented. And giving him the misfortune alongside Gabix's Nautilus and giving another damage source with this Xyle, they have a way to take control of the bottom side of the map to push the Aphelios out. Again, the Leona is considered a counter to the Nautilus, but when you have no protection for this Aphelios, if you're able to get on with a hook, if you're able to get on with a depth charge, something like that, or even just set up a bullet time, it's easy enough for the Misfortune Nautilus, one of the strongest combos you got in the bot lane, to make that play happen. In my mind, you got to take over the bottom of the map. That's where your pressure is going to be on the side of Dark Map.
And there's not much you can really do from the aspect of Supernova. Looking at some of these other lanes, there's a lot of disengage across the board here from the side of Maryville. So if you're looking to make an impact, like you said, it definitely has to come through in that regards. Either way, you're going to be losing out as the game just continues to tick on.
Yeah, I think also that the pillar from Trundle in this one mostly affects Aatrox and also affects Azir in some way. The bottom lane, obviously, it's going to affect them, but with two members, it's a little harder to make sure both of them end up going down. So a flash can easily be burnt. Then they just switch positionings. They have another flash to work with, more defensive summoners, things of that sort. W for Misfortune gives her some move speed back. So in my mind, since Kind Jungle likely is going to supplement the already difficult to play in lanes for the side of Dark Matter, you just got to play to the bottom side. Xyle's going to avoid the Trundle, going to go lay on the bottom side of the map, try to get some dragon control, maybe look to contest Rift Herald with a rotation at that 8-minute mark and really push that advantage to force a fight against Maryville.
Well, with that, though, we've given the best that we can on the regards to our caster desk analysis. It's going to be up to these two teams. Will Maryville lead themselves to victory and pick themselves 2-0 here against Supernova Dark Matter, or will we see this game be brought to a Game 3? I have no clue. It's up to them. But with that, though, we're going to be going through a short loading period, so stay tuned and stick around. Welcome back. Getting into the second game here of Maryville versus Supernova Dark Matter. Both these teams respective in their own right. Looking pretty standard so far. No one's looking to take it too aggressive just yet.
And that looks like they're just going to go to a 5-point. Actually, they're starting to cluster up here and maybe look for an invade. I don't know if they're going to be able to get that one super easily. Yeah, they're just going to walk directly into the river and they can be spotted out by the Nautilus very quickly. But didn't drop pushing up here.
Wow, they're pushing very far up there, running Gabix out of the own jungle there. Gonna see the response here from Supernova. Get a little bit of the vision there on the blue side now.
Yeah, Gabix is still yet to drop a ward, so they don't know exactly where they have left yet. I assume that's not going to matter all that much. They pinged that they knew that the possible counter invade was coming on the opposite side. They just get spotting on the blue buff, and it's going to be Tide spotting on the blue buff. Although the bottom ward there on the blue side here for the side of Dark Matter is a much better ward because you can track the eventual pathing rather than just the immediate pathing. So even if they don't know where he is to start with, they know where he's going to be eventually because they'll see him either use the blast cone, walk past the wolves, something along those, walk into the river, something like that, or they know he will never cross there and they know to watch out topside.
Finally, we do see them calm down a bit, respectively. They're both going to start here on the top side of the map. Curious to see how that plays out.
Yeah, top side of the map. It looks like the Kindred's going to be starting the red. Nothing shocking about that at all. The Trundle also went completely leashless to start this one, which isn't always a bad thing. Trundle's pretty good at these camps. Easily has
Gets
a little
the
bit
extra health buff on that passive. Yeah.
Nothing too crazy about that. Not whatsoever. It's just going to slow him down a little bit while Kindred is able to cross jungle a little bit faster.
Do you see ridgeline there? Nothing too crazy follow-up, though. No one's throwing out any summoners just yet.
Ooh. Okay, importantly, so it's basically a full clear pathing of the entire blue side here for the Trundle. He does have difficulty taking multi-target camps, but most importantly, they're going to spot him out with that ward that they put down as he moves. They're going to know he's heading to the bottom side of the map, which is why you see Kindred immediately invade for the red. They might try to catch him off guard as he goes for the red and then eventually tries to move down the map, and that's what you're seeing from Kindred right now.
See that rotation immediately. Gonna see him spot him out. We do see the pillar thrown down. Rooted meanwhile. Spider Queen there gonna step up. Zyle taking low. Flash comes through there. Leona knows Zenith Blade. First blood though. Over to the Spider Queen. Meanwhile, we do see the rotation there from MF Wolfie. He picks up the kill. Gonna go over the way, surprisingly, of Shady.
That's the case. Pretty
Shady.
Ooh.
Zenith Blade cleanse gonna be used meanwhile from the Spider Queen there.
Every summoner in the bottom side here for the side of Dark Matter was burnt during this, but it was a kill and double buffs going the way of the Misfortune, which is going to make the next few minutes here miserable for the Ophelia. Leona does have double buffs as well, so maybe could look to all in and try to Spider Queen, but it's going to be difficult, certainly.
No judge line, but the Zenith Blade response stun comes through. Gravitum is available for the potential route. Shady, though, going to be burnt and ticked down there from the Spider Queen. Value response picks up Gavix, forced to flash now. Had to use the heal. Meanwhile, finally, all summoners are down bot lane.
But they are.
Support for support.
It's support for support. You do get the kill onto the Aphelios versus the Nautilus, and not a double kill going to the way of your Misfortune, which is nice. And the double buffs will last longer on value, so as long as he stays in this laning phase, he'll eventually have the advantage to work with over Misfortune. You see a gank, though, coming in. Rooted up.
Not quite, no. Oh, shame on that Zenith Blade. Didn't quite hit there. Surprised Shady didn't turn up top and try to look for something there. Maybe potentially hit him.
Just going to play defensively again around his Aphelios. It is all too easy to get onto him without real protection, so you have to at least be willing to threaten some CC or the kill coming through from the Leona. Again, keeping him in lane is important, but more importantly, they want to keep Spider Queen in lane because she currently has the double buffs, and they'll run out a lot faster. And if they get the double buff advantage here for the Aphelios on the bottom side, they easily win that all in.
Kind jungle and Gabix here. Nothing too crazy. It's basically a wet noodle fight. Gabix looks for that escape there. It doesn't have flash up, but no one's with no idea with the rotations on the map. You can't really fully commit to that kind of thing.
You can't. It's difficult. They don't know where the Kindred is at on the map, so they can't make that play happen. So Gabex gets away with murder right there.
Well, they're both low on mana, so nothing crazy.
Yeah, nothing insane here. Again, the thing is that the Xerath will get poked pretty heavily, especially if Spear Axe is able to get good positioning on these soldiers early on, and not a ton of wave clear to work with. It looks like, yeah, his jungler's just going to come in here, make sure they can get a good reset for the Xerath to make things happen.
Same bit of moves. Outside Zyle. Trying to get some pressure off, but they spotted it out very early. Easily able to back off that one.
They were. Get the good reset. There. Off as well, which is nice. Yeah, no.
Zenith Blade. We do see the stun come down there on a Spider Queen. Sadly, no. Ooh! Big bullet hit there on the bounce. Valley taken pretty low. Either way, Kind Jungle finally makes the arrive here. Looking to push this wave in.
Yeah, push his way all the way down the map from the top side jungle into the mid lane and into the bottom lane. The all-in was there.
Oh my gosh.
She knew that it could come through.
You know what I haven't noticed? What's been going on this whole time? The massive 20 CS lead that Niles has accumulated for himself on the Jace. And he already built into the Executioner's calling that you were calling out a bit earlier.
Yeah, stacks the second wave or third wave, something along those lines. It could even be the fourth wave if he bounces the first one, gets a cheat back off as the Aatrox has to catch farm, and immediately uses his TP to get
Shady. We see the Zenith Blade land stun come through, ignite as well. Gabex looking to escape, uses that dredge line, but it does not matter. Oh, he's just so low!
Run!
Run! I don't think it's going to happen. He uses that shield there. Slow comes down. Finally, the W's up. Meanwhile, we do see the Emperor's Divide using mid lane. Good gank there from Xyle. They're able to pick up the kill onto Woofy. It's a 1-for-1 for both teams here.
Yeah, a good play into the bottom side. Once again, able to make use of the pillar to set up the play onto the Nautilus. Again, as you made mention, also Shady hiding in the brush, ready to make that happen. But in the mid lane, without a ton of AP yet, Wolfie is struggling to clear the minions fast enough to make sure the Azir is going to get punished whatsoever. So that allows for the shuffle to push him into Xyle. Rather unfortunate situation. The Xerath's going to be caught in for a little while, down a little bit of gold. Not much to the Azir, but more specifically, the Kindred getting the first blood of the game is rather nice to get Xyle ahead, and that's kind of the pressure you want to put around the map. You want to use this Kindred alongside this Nautilus and this Misfortune, and that's where your early game's going to come from. So now Xyle gets a little bit of boost to that.
I will say, though, across the board, though, nice plays here from Supernova, keeping a bit even. Now we see Kind Jungle making the gank on to Gibble here on the top side. Going to throw down that World Ender. Ooh.
Shack West. Just wide.
What a shame. Just a little bit haywire.
That it was.
Xyle here. They're going to be running straight in there. We do see energy field come through there. Xerath, they're looking potentially the chase. Good peel, though, from Xyle to make sure he can get out of that one safely before the wave pushed in there. Very nice.
But they do not have TP on the Aatrox right now, nor do they have anything else ready for Xyle to respond to this. And Jace and the Trundle are relatively good team.
Stun, Gabex, the turret's down. That is a lot of damage early.
That is. Thankfully, the Aftershock had come through for Gabex alongside the shield, so they denies a little bit of the damage. But yeah, this is why you see the Nautilus as the losing matchup against the Leona. So Leona is able to get the CC out first. You can just pound the Nautilus for free, break that shield so he has no auto attacks, and just soak so much damage.
Oh, and he heals back up pretty quickly with the potions.
It's a bot. Well done.
Thank you.
The top side, though, we do see the Rift Arrow play coming in, and they're able to get that one again. They pushed off the Aatrox rather far, and Xyle was not able to respond whatsoever. He's going to try for the Dragon on the bottom side, but they could maybe look for the counter play here for if you're Shady or if you're Value onto this one.
Ooh, Shady. Zenith Blade, Moonlight, Vigil in response to the Crescendum there, but that flash saved the day. Nothing too aggressive for them to pick up, but definitely gives that off the table now for the next 5 minutes. Ooh, Dive here, gonna be aggressed on by Niles. And a supreme amount of poke. I mean, that's just gross this early.
And the lethality this early into the game, combined with just a little bit of AD and the Executioners coming through to deny any healing, means that Gibble is in a pretty rough place for himself. They do respond with the Dragon on the bottom side, but Kind Jungle now has the Rift Herald readily available to maybe snowball Niles even further into this one. Already has 2.5 plates done. Could easily drop a Rift Herald top with just a little bit of pressure and would be more than enough to take that tower and hold.
And he's hovering it, so it wouldn't be a surprise to see him kind of convince himself. Oh!
Not this time.
Just barely missing the Emperor's Divide. We see the response immediately from Wolfie with the right of the Arcane, but nothing to pick up for himself there. By the way, Gabex has done this every single time he is back, made the rotation topside, looked for potentially some way to help out Supernova, and then made it back to bot, because Misfortune has a lot of motive for herself to protect herself, so either way, nothing he's picked up. We do see Xyle here. They're going to launch on the Valley immediately. Spider Queen steps up. He's going to flash into turret to save the day, but we see the response from Xyle come out immediately. Picks up that kill for himself. This Rift Herald is still pushing on the top side, though.
It is easy enough dive on the bottom side, but we see a play on the top
World
side.
Ender Kind Jungle and be taking a huge chunk of damage from the triple turret shot there. Meanwhile, turret going down. Gabex finally going to run into it. He's going to be hit through with that stopwatch. The Solar Flare not quite going to hit. The Dredge Line going to come out on there as we do see the knockup on Woofy. He heals himself just barely, but it doesn't matter. Jay's going to be picking up the field there. Or I mean, sorry, Gabex. Now Shady here looking to finish up the Zenith Blade coming through the stun onto Gavex. Kind Jungle there with the pillar. Gavex is just too tanky. Looking for the escape. The shield is coming down. Finally, Niles coming down. Blast from over the wall.
Yeah, game's playing out very similar to what we saw in game number 1, where a lot of resources are being given to Nile. The difference is Dark Matter is able to make plays on the opposite side of the map, just kind of in response to that happening. So once again, the dive from Xyle into the bottom lane, got a couple of turret plays, got 3 off for himself and his Misfortune that give them more than enough gold. Not to mention, again, the Azir doing pretty well in this matchup up against the Xerath early on. Later, that's probably going to turn. That's going to be a very different fight, but Wolfie is certainly not feeling the effects of the early ganks that he has sustained up against this Azir. But this is a very fed Jace at the moment. This is Niles' Jace with the most gold in the game at the moment. A completed Yumu's and an Executioner's means he's almost unrespondable to in the side lane.
Either way, though, there's a lot stacking up here as you let the game run on. Maryville, I won't call him a ticking time bomb, but as it goes on, it's going to be tougher and tougher for Supernova. And what I do like is that Xyle, this game especially, has definitely been playing a lot more proactive, and he's been making plays on the bot lane, which is something we talked about earlier. Ooh, Spyrex here. Barely able to hit that Emperor's Divide again. Xyle's going to look to save this one out. He gets the slow off. Those soldiers are ticking down. Does not matter. Kyle Jungle takes the aggression there. Xyle, though, popped back into turret. The Lamb's Respite had to be thrown down.
Oh, my God!
Of the Arcane! Right of the Arcane. My gosh, that was such a good snipe.
I mean, like I said, once you have that, this is what I was mentioning earlier. Once you've got that area down, they're trapped in that area. They have no way to go. You just pigeonhole them inside of a barrel like a fish, and it's shooting for anything else. So you're going to be able to see more than enough in that regard, and you're going to see the play that had happened immediately.
Rotation.
A little bit more.
See Kind Jungle here and Shady. They're setting up looking for something. They don't know they're there. There's no vision available. The Solar Flare is going to come out immediately. Gaveback's going to be stunned, and Rudy tries to use that dredge line, but the pillar is in his way now. See the depth charge come backwards, but Value takes him out before he can make any aggressive plays. Ooh, meanwhile here, Niles just poking out Spirix. Oh! Nothing on that blaster shot. What a shame.
Need the shock blast. If he lands that, I don't know that he absolutely kills Spirax, but at minimum, he might have to force the flash to make sure that Niles doesn't flash after him and kill him.
Kind Jungle here. Gonna take the fight directly to him. Xyle gets the dash back over the wall. You see that Calibrum come through. Meanwhile, Xyle actually surprising gets that 3-stack back, but he's gonna be hit with the Zenith Blade in the root. Shadow picks that one up in regards. Now Niles making the rotation. Now Spider Queen has the Ignite burning down. Good response to pick up Shady. Meanwhile, finally the kill goes over. That turret, though, took out Value. Now Guile here, taking advantage of the low health. Niles making the run. That is absurd. He's able to get the flash kill. But my gosh. Niles responded so quickly.
That he did. The play onto the bottom side, once again, this time Xyle looked like he was getting caught out in the regards to what had happened here. This is the end of the play where they go way too aggressive underneath the tower. The Kindred goes down immediately, but look at the health bars of Value right now, as well as Shady. Shady gets targeted by the tower first, and then immediately afterwards, Value gets one shot by the tower. Now, yeah, you get the kill onto Niles. The expenditure of the flash is going to confirm the Aatrox with a very full health bar, who does get bursted out pretty heavily, is going to get the kill onto Nile, and especially the 550 gold shutdown is going to be huge to get the Aatrox back into this one. Not enough, but it's a start.
Ooh. It's definitely far more even last game. The goal difference is not apparent across the board here. And something like Niles, even last game where we saw the aggressive Renekton that just washed over the map as the game went on, he doesn't quite have that same dominance this time. Of course, it's definitely because it's a Jace rather than Renekton, but it does bode a massive difference in this second game here. Out here, we're going to run straight into Niles. The damage comes through immediately. He's looking to run away before that 3-stack passive. Throws down the blast shot. The flash from Gavex. The Lamb's Respite is down. Uses the dredge line to pull him in. He's not able to get in, and Xyle kills him off.
I seem to remember that same play happening a couple of times in the last game where you throw 3-4 members towards the bottom side of the map. So it only took 3 compared to 4 from the last game, but yeah, they're able to get yet another kill. I like the attempted dodge by Niles onto the hook coming through from Gavex, but just uses the depth charge immediately, doesn't try to save the cooldowns. They do give up Rift Herald though, which is important, and Wolfies here in the mid lane will be the beneficiary of taking the mid lane tower and the gold almost exclusively, which is going to be huge. Not to mention Gil can't contest the Shady's here.
Solar Flare. See that's in play in the pillar. Geibel going to be forced to use World Ender immediately. The Gravitum. It's a good route. He's just so much quicker, especially with that World Ender. He's going to be able to get out of that one. Turret. Ooh. Yeah, still went down. In bot lane, though, they got the response with Spirix and Xyle, so it's a 1-for-1 in the turret take.
That is, they get mid lane turret for the bottom lane inner turret, which again, typically you always want an inner turret versus anything else. I do like that the gold did go on to the Xerath. Right now, to me, there's a battle right now. Misfortune got a gold.
Niles, huge chunk of damage. He's going to dash back. Spirix tried to pull something off with the Stream and Shuffle there, but it wasn't quite available. Look at the rotation. We're going to see that teleport come out immediately. Blaster shot from Niles, though, miles away. Now we see the follow-up here from Wolfie! Downtown with the snipe. 2 kills on the board for Maryville there.
Yeah, the space is just too easy to work with when you've got champions with this level of range. The Jace is really far ahead. The Xerath is slowly picking up gold and becoming strong in the game. Again, I'm making the point that, you know, in this game right now, you've got a very powerful Jace versus a very powerful Misfortune, and now you're starting to see also the continuity of that, which is Xyle on this Kindred picking up enough gold to be a secondary carry, while Wolfie is doing that on the opposite side. So where you've got, you know, either the Misfortune or the Jace on the map, that's where the strong point is for the respective teams. That's where you got to look to see where the play is going to be made.
Definitely here. In terms of objectives, though, a lot more has gone in favor in terms of that Dragon Point there for the side of, I believe that's Supernova. Yeah. So looking to see how the contention's going to get a bit more difficult now that we see have some of those items online here. But Mountain can do a lot for these two teams here since they don't quite have the front lines necessary to take to these team fights. That could actually save the day for a lot of this here.
Yeah. The Mountain Soul specifically, like, into poke compositions, can completely deny that first volley, which is, like, really important for continuing a team fight as a poke composition. It doesn't help much for sieging, though, so you have to be careful of that. Ocean Drake's a lot better for it, but certainly take off the shave of the initial damage from team fighting, which is all more important, especially for a team that wants to set that up. But it does look like Maryville put a lot of resources into ensuring that they're going to be the first ones towards this Mountain Drake. They're putting a lot of vision, they're putting a lot of effort into controlling this rightmost quadrant just to make sure that they are the first ones there, or at least anybody who tries to step in gets punished very heavily.
It's kind of a shame, too, because Supernova could actually really use something like that on their belt right now. That actually is a little bit of a counter to what they're playing against, so...
Yeah, so more armor, more magic resist, helpful for magic penetration, for armor penetration, and also, again, when you're dealing with poke, you gotta get that off, yeah.
A massive shield with the soul, but either way here, Wolfie still stacking the additional gold in this mid lane, trying to get himself up to that carry potential here that we've seen time and time again. A little bit of poke. Shady steps up here. He's going to be launching for it immediately. The flash comes through there, but that does not matter. Instant stuns. Wolfie picks that one up for himself. They're going to keep pushing this out now in the mid lane as bot lane picks up a turret for themselves.
The fear is now there also that if the Leona is able to catch somebody out on their own without a cleanse, without a QSS or anything of the sort, then they're going to be able to be picked off by one of these poke mages, either the Jace or the Xerath. You saw it right there. The Xerath was able to basically one-combo the Azir so long as the CC was there, and that's exactly what Shady was there to provide. So your consistent damage now gone in the side of Spirax. It's only the Misfortune and the Kindred left. Both are AD, and neither one of them has this massive range or defensive capability, much like the Azir.
Niles here. A great Zenith Blade. Now is going to pick up that kill there. Spire Queen forced out of the bullet time. Meanwhile, here Xyle now looking to make a response. The double damage, but Value is pressuring them off very nicely. Finally, Geibel has arrived. He does have World Ender up and available. Niles goes through the backline. The World Ender finally going to come out here. Wow, now trying to push up there. A great push out for the Lambs fight. He's going to be stunned. Meanwhile, there, the Pillar just barely able to push him out as Value picks up the kill.
I believe
that's it.
Yeah. The fights are getting spicier, that's for sure. Again, when you throw up the Lamb's Respite, you've got fish in a barrel. That's all you've got. You see it once again. Wolfie throwing skill shots down the way. They get mid tower. They get plenty of members off this team. They took a 1,000 gold advantage, have now extended it to 3, get their first drag into the game, and they're looking like a team that's starting to really push forward. So far, the ADC gap has completely shrunk to only about 400 gold between the two, so the Aphelios is rather powerful. Wolfie has slowly become the second most powerful member on this game, behind Niles, who's already been the most powerful in this game the entire time.
With that, though, like you said, the defense towards this Mountain Drake going to go over paired towards Maryville, the first Drake of the game. Going to be denying that point a little bit longer there. But like you said, it's just starting to stack up across the board. Wolfie going from 0-2 to picking up the kills and the Rabadon for himself now. Definitely one of the most high priority targets here from Maryville that you got to keep watching. Because like you said, especially with that Lamb's fight last time, it was literally fish in a barrel. He just stood, waited, just sniped out whatever he could.
Yeah, and who do you really get onto something like the Xerath or the Jace when they're standing super far back? The the three you've got are either the Nautilus if he's able to get a flank or a good flash into an ultimate. You've got Spirax with the same
Jungle.
Kind Jungle knows he's there. Oh, the hook from Gabex. No. No.
He tried. He tried.
He had stars in his eyes knowing that was going to be a highlight play and just hits the
ball. Ooh, Wolfie, great hook. Meanwhile, bullet time in the depth charge going to knock him up. The kill's going to go over Spider Queen. We see that Lamb's Respite. Meanwhile, that's the good Lamb's Respite. That is the aggressive play. That sets up that double kill for Spider Queen. Hold them off till you bring them down to that 50-50, till your team can come to respond. That's what I like to see.
Yeah. And as I just said, how do you capitalize up against a composition that you're not able to engage to? You gotta have Nautilus and he's gotta have Flash. He lands it onto the Xerath very easily. They pick him off and there's no consistent damage anymore. You can no longer support the Leona that's sitting inside of that Lamb's Respite because there's nothing to work with now. Niles is in a very precarious situation. Can he run his way out?
World Ender. He's pretty fast.
5 members coming his way. He has
He's pretty fast.
Too. If he's able to land a couple of abilities, he might actually have a way to get
finally,
out here.
Spear Axe. Emperor's Divide came through there, but geez, he is fast. Finally able to make his way out of that one. They're going to turn, though. Kind Jungle here. Looks to make the escape. He's going to be rooted, though, from Gabex. Spirit's going to be the one to pick that one up. A good turn. Surprising just to kind of let that one off and then just running around. But meanwhile here, I can hear the Yakety Sack Many Hill theme playing as Niles is literally run all across the map back towards his own top side.
Yeah, I'm surprised. So earlier, Kind Jungle threw down the pillar to attempt to slow down, I believe it was Spirax, instead of just pillaring off the entrance that would have slowed down anyone that chased through it. And I think that was the mistake that he had made. Instead of slowing down exclusively the Azir to prevent him from throwing soldiers over the wall at the Jace, instead if he pillars off that entrance, there's no way they can chase him whatsoever, and I think he gets away easily anyway. So maybe just a little bit of a misplay from Kind Jungle, but in that case, you're trying to protect Niles, you're trying to make sure that no shutdown goes over to this team and keep your top laner alive, so you can sacrifice that. Again, the Trundle's not worth nearly as much gold as the Jace would be.
Very true. So, yeah, it wasn't all that bad, but it was very entertaining to watch.
And not to mention, the Xerath also dropped 2 ult shots onto Spirax, and he lost half his health bar. Not to mention, the poke was still there from Niles to Xerath, so like they can't just turn for the Baron there because they just get destroyed. Like, I would say fish in a barrel again, because that's the analogy that I've been using. But honestly, like, it
bobbing for apples.
It doesn't even seem sufficient at this point. Like, I don't even know how to describe something smaller with a larger object in it that you can shoot at. A broadside of a barn.
Jeez. Usually that's meant to miss there, but we do see a great Emperor's Divide. Wolfie caught out with the bullet time, respectively. Shady gonna try to stun that one out. Does not matter. Spirix and Spider Queen picking themselves up. Niles still pushing out this bot side against Geibel.
Gibble's feeling the effects of the lethality.
The turret. Let me stack down. Still looking to fight that one out, by the way.
Go the other way.
Ooh, Moonlight Vigil there. The Infernum. Not quite enough damage. They did great to move out of that one. That pillar's down the teleport in response. Ooh, did not get the steal value. A little too far forward. He's able to pick off Spider Queen before he goes down. But it's not quite enough. Wolfie went down as well. No. It was just 1-for-1. Never mind.
The passive on the flamethrower right there feels so bad for Spider Queen to die too, because his positioning wasn't the issue. It was one of his teammates' positioning that ended up costing him his life. So gotta feel for him on that one. Can't do much in that regard. They do end up walking away with 4 Barons. The gold is back to even, and now again you can use this to pressure towards Dragons. You're the team with the advantage right now. The other team does have poke, but they don't have an ADC to be able to compete.
Shady. Zenith Blade, right of the Arcane. Lamb's Respite's coming down. Can Supernova make the response quick enough? They're able, but right of the Arcane! That is disgusting.
Zyle should just rename to Fish. This again.
Okay,
The
all right.
Fish in the barrel,
Lay off this
dribbling
man.
this into the ground, but that's literally the third time it's happened. That is the strength of having the Poke champions here. He's
Either
absolutely
way,
Oh.
Shady a little too forward here. Gonna be rooted and stunned out. Solar Flare, it's thrown down. Doesn't matter. Spirix picks the kill up there. Supernova now have all the time in the world to aggress onto this dragon here. They've got the numbers advantage. Spirix with a great Emperor's Divide. We see the response quickly come out there from Wolfie, but he's not able to follow up. No right of the arcane available.
So I've seen before like the ability of Azir to make plays like this consistently throughout the game, but in this one it seems like Spirax is like the main form of engage for this team, which is crazy. The number of times the shuffle has been utilized just as a way to push 1, 2, 3 members in to use their superior team composition to get something has been absolutely crazy. Spirax is an absolutely heralded hero in this one for his ability to be pretty much the only way to engage into this comp.
I feel like Maryville's getting a little too comfy with the concept that they have this poke comp and they can stand far back, and then they look to push forward and get some information, potentially look for the vision or contest some of these objectives, forgetting the fact that they excel at making sure that they literally have that extra range, and it's not looking good. Especially recently, they've lost so many fights because of that over-aggression.
That they have. The one thing I do like is that a lot of time was spent wasting for that dragon. In fact, it's gotten to the point where their Baron buff is very nearly gone. They only have maybe 15, 30 seconds of that left before it's going to expire. That is... that's a win in my book, honestly, if you're on the side of Maryville. They weren't able to push down a lot of the ambient towers on the map. They're 3 towers down. If they get 3 towers back, they take a definitive gold lead, but none of those go down in kind of just due to the Baron buff, and so I'd say that's a win for them.
They got 2 minutes left on the Baron.
Did they really?
Yeah.
What? I just looked at it.
I'm pretty sure
it just expired.
Did it?
Yeah.
No.
Yes.
Hold on.
Oh,
Someone explain this to me.
No. Nobody
No.
It's because the Baron timer starts when the Baron dies and not when the Baron buff ends. So what you're looking at is the Baron timer and not
I'm not even gonna.
That's fine.
It's fine. It's fine. That's a short Baron then. That is just... Oh, that's gross.
Like I said, it was just maybe due to the fact that they burnt another minute off their clock, just wasting their time around the dragon. Yeah, they got the soul point, but that first bit of it, it didn't feel like it was a long time, but it definitely was enough to lose everything. They get this tower off the wave that they were able to stack, but I think that's all they're going to get from that Baron buff play, so got to give some appreciation. The poke composition leaves to fight another day.
That is still just like... That's kind of blowing my mind a little bit here. There was so much time put towards that looking back. No, okay. I know he's not here, but Nick, in the future, we're going to need one of those Baron timers up on the board, ticking down. Especially for me, I can't count. Other than that, though, very interesting there. Definitely gives Maryville a little bit of the pressure back, but Supernova has been laying into this top side pretty consistently here with Zyle. He's going to be moving forward there, forces the flash out of Wolfie there, and the heal additionally.
Yeah, they have
right of the arcane. Can he snipe it? Can he snipe it? Not quite.
Nope.
Very close, though.
You know why he wasn't able to snipe it? Because he didn't throw down. It didn't go down. Couldn't find him. That's the idea. Don't have to throw up a barrel. Just keep swimming in the ocean. That's the intention here.
All right.
I mean, why box yourself into an area where they know you're going to be when you could just be anywhere at any given time?
That's right. Go ask the fish, Rebel. Why put yourself in the barrel?
I did ask them.
Oh god.
I'm still stuck on how you thought that the Baron buff wasn't done.
I think that's crazy, but I think that's just revolutionary. The stunt. At a certain point, especially with you're not even at soul point.
Mm-hmm.
Why waste so much time when you have such an effective buff and you have the kills and you have that advantage already? Just back off.
That's the pressure you put on with it, like with a poke composition though. You've got more than enough ability to pressure it, not only just like poking away your champion, but kills, steals from a far distance. They feel like they have to take at least 1-2 members away so they can't make the approach and just drill damage into your team. I think that's what you're feeling on the side of Dark Matter. Thankfully, they've been able to play around that fact rather well.
Either way here, that Baron is going to be back on the Rift here very shortly. Supernova picked up the first one. Curious to see if Maryville can make the respective contestation. They've already got a lot of people on this Baron, even before it spawned out there. Trying to contest the vision, get themselves in position here.
This is a much faster Baron from the side of Dark Matter by a long shot. You got 2 ADCs, you've got percentage health damage, you've got an Azir as well.
Arcane.
Crazy.
They're trying to poke this one out. The rotation is coming through. That Baron's going to go the way of Supernova Dark Matter, but the chase ensues. Great solar flare. The damage, Lamb's Respite comes through. But like you said, Rebel, fish in a barrel. The stun comes through. Value picking up the kill there onto Xyle. Now the chase, the Moonlight Vigil, Infernum stacks comes through. Kind Jungle with that flash. He's going to throw the Subjugate down in the tick damage. Kind Jungle going to be picked up as well. I mean, I believe Gabex there goes down. So that's going to be 2 off on that Baron. Only 3 members alive there. Spirit, Spider Queen, Geibel respectively.
Yeah. Importantly, though, Dark Matter do keep alive a couple of members that are important for sieging, especially the Azir, the Misfortune as well. Keeping the Baron buff is very, very big for their fights. They're going to give up the Dragon here, but they do take a significant advantage for the first time in the game. And again, you've got the Baron buff, and the first one didn't work. This one lasts a lot longer, and you don't have to worry about the distraction of the Dragon now to take away the time that you would have had to push those towers. So in my mind, put Aatrox in a side lane because he's still got it. Put every one of your other members in the same lane and see if you can try to bust down some of the outer towers. Top is definitely my first choice here for Gibble. He's already setting up around it, waiting for this wave to come in. So he has a double stacked Baron buff wave. And mid lane is where you should put every other member of the team, most likely.
We'll see if that's how it plays out here in regards to Maryville. They've got the clear available towards themselves now, so really all they have to do is hold out here or potentially look for some of the aggressive picks because Supernova is not shy to step forward here. If they can land something like that, they definitely delete some of the aggression here. Gabex is able to escape that one.
Yeah, just playing a little bit of chicken.
I was going to say, I saw Niles there, just looked like he was ready for the hunt.
Yeah, he was full speed ahead.
Right, the Arcane. Used there. We do see the retreat there from Spearaxe to get out of the damage.
He
throw
got
down
hit
that
with 1.
I know,
and he
right?
took a quarter of his health bar. That's the danger of the Xerath right now.
Ooh, Niles using the blast shot to get the bit of the poke here. Shady just waiting for something to line up here. Gabex going to be the first one caught out. We do see the Xerath, the value going to be hit meanwhile there by the depth charge. Ooh, that pillar. Not quite in line there. Spider Queen forced to flash out of the solar flare. Nothing picked up just yet. Niles here potentially looking for something aggressive. Going to run straight into Geibel in this bot lane here. The World Ender going to come out. The Pillar doing well to slow this man down with the Subjugate. Finally, a member goes down. Geibel going to be the first one to pick up here. They look to continue to chase. A great bullet time, though, from over the wall as we see Spearaxe in that backline with the Emperor's Divide. Spider Queen going to get the kill onto Shady. Meanwhile, Value from over the wall with that crescendo picking up the return kill. But Spider Queen has finally arrived, and Spearaxe over the Dragon Wall for the double kill.
That was a great fight from Spearaxe. He's pretty much single-handedly just tied that fight. Were it for anybody else, I think they would have pretty much lost. They gave it their best shot to make a good engagement happen. This was the pickoff immediately onto Gibble. There's not much he can do here, but watch the way they played this poke composition on the side of Maryville. This bullet time was really good, but it really only connected onto the Leona, which was a shame. And then you see the massive play from Spearaxe has to go into Zonia's, and he's able to get into the pit, the challenge against the two that are stuck there in Value and in Niles. And I think that's where the fight ended up getting broken at. If those two stay alive, they clean that fight entirely. They should have separated a little bit more. But certainly you see the strength. Maryville's able to play this poke composition to absolute perfection when they're set up in the right position. And you see just how much you need to do as Spearaxe, as Xyle, as any of these members to contest it.
Absolutely. Either way there, did bring it out a bit even and also stunts the pushing power of Supernova as that Baron runs out. So they definitely stunted anything that they could have lost there, but it still does not look great here for the side of Maryville going down.
What does not?
Looking to step up there. We see the Rite of Arcane used immediately. Meanwhile, Geibel, Niles playing this very aggressively. The pillar comes down. They turn their attention to Gabex as he looks for the escape towards the river here. He's going to be completely caught out. Niles going to be the one to pick that up. They look to continue the aggression here. We do see the subjugation. World Ender response. They cannot push forward there. A great rain coming down from the sky from Spider Queen to slow that aggression off. But with Gabex down in a 4v5 now on the map, And this wave pushing in, they can look to push out this mid turret.
So I like the way that Maryville has now adapted the Xerath's usage of the ultimate. He's using it to push Spirax out of the fight immediately, because if he's got Zonias, he can go in, he can do what he wants, but without Zonias, or with the fear that the team can collapse around him, they push him out of the fight and don't let him wall in the way that he's been able to set up fights with. This is a very dead turret.
Blade, Root, Geibel, turret down. Calamari not quite going to land that killing blow, but they just... The siege power is absurd from Maryville.
They lost their Nautilus, so that's all of their front line. That's the person who can go in without having to worry about the poke. And again, if you push Spirax out with the ultimate from Wolfie, with the EQ coming through from Niles, he loses most of his health bar. He was at half health before that fight started, and they just picked off the frontmost member because you can't make an engage happen. That's what happened. And then, of course, it's a siege composition. They've got poke. They sit up around a tower. There's nothing you can do about it whatsoever. That's what I'm loving right now. They're finding the angle to get damage on the Spirax to prevent the engage from coming down.
Especially after that last team fight where Spirax literally tied it up single-handedly, I would be doing the exact same thing. Gabex here, a little bit of poke on that turret.
Coming right now, like Mountain Drake's gonna be up, and this is gonna be a fight. There's absolutely no doubt about this.
No way, Niles is already pushing up so aggressively. He's ready to go. See that blast shot? They're pushing them off the dragon without even being completely fully aggressive. We see that blast shot come through. Geibel trying to forward this one out. But Shady is just so tanky. But we do see the Moonlight Vigil there. A great grab on Root there. Zal's taking credit low. The Lambs are probably going to come out immediately. The Root comes through. Shady goes deep into his backline. A 3-stack pass and going to tick down before the stun goes down. As we see the double kill response both times, even in the backline here. Doesn't matter. The right of Arcane's ticking down. Spider Queen is going to be taken down. As a result, we see the value coming in for the chase. But Zal's over the wall with the Root. Immediately going to get the turnaround. But the long range poke from Wolfie for the double kill. Now they turn their attention to Gabex, who's slowed to a halt. It doesn't matter. Stunned out. It's going to be the triple kill for my main man, Wolfie, and it's a full team wipeout for Supernova.
Fantastic play right there from the side of there we go. They did such a good job. I think most importantly, though, you have to keep your eye on the initial ultimate from Value. It knocks so many people down. They force him out the back, so it was a big engage from Spirax on the back line, but it means nothing. He gets popped, and there's no one to follow up on it because they got knocked down from the Value ultimate. Then you see, again, the damage supplementation from Niles, from Xerath in these fights is what's really winning them everything that they need. And then you've got, of course, the front line coming through, the Trundle, impossible to deal with. But again, the hero in this fight is Value. He throws in his ultimate, knocks multiple members down, and they have to say
Spirax, the defense, Emperor's Divide, Kind Jungle. He's able to finish the game off. The Nexus finally going down. I thought that was all but over, but Spirax tried to defend it one last time. Either way, Maryville picks up the series as a whole, taking out Supernova Dark Matter.
Not as clear a win as their number one, but I think it was arguably a better expression of the skill coming through from the side of Maryville. They played it in a phenomenal fashion. They adapted on the fly. They looked phenomenal in the later game team fights when their opposition was starting to fall off. Got to give them a lot of credit.
Absolutely, and even when they were pushed down and knocked back, playing a bit too far forward, a little too aggressive, even though they were running that poke comp, they were able to reassess and pull it together, especially assessing who really was those targets that you really wanted to lock down and prevent. Once they got it under control, pushed back Spirax, kind of got the handle on to Xyle respectively, it all started to flow their way. So really nice to see that come out there.
Spirax was absolutely insane this second game as well. In game one, he was also very good, but this second game as the Azir, he was the engage button, and it's very hard to find somebody who can play an engage button as the Azir, but he found it time and time again. And again, that last fight, if it weren't for that Moonlight Vigil coming through from Value, that probably would have been a one fight coming through from Dark Matter. They would have gotten the Mountain Soul, and that might have been the game for them, but instead weren't able to make that happen, and the massive ultimate from Spirax not able to be followed up on. It was a good series, and certainly lots of improvement from the side of Dark Matter coming through in game number 2, but Maryville just played it too well.
Absolutely. With that, though, any last thoughts here to give the series as a whole here on Upsurge Premier League?
I thought it was a phenomenal set of games between these two teams. Again, this is just week one, and these are two of the fantastic teams that we have available in the Upsurge Premier League. I believe right now over on Upsurge Esports, they're playing 100 Thieves versus Frostfire. If you want, go check them out immediately. That's going to be phenomenal. If you're interested in more content coming out of Maryville, they're going to be streaming as often as they can, so hit the follow button, follow them on Twitter, anything that you can do, and we'll certainly be around. Myself, Rebel, Fox, Z, Nick, if you like any of us, go find us on Twitter, follow us as well. We appreciate that, and we'll make get as much content as we possibly can. I want to thank both our host, Maryville, for having us here tonight. I want to thank Dark Matter for being fantastic sports, with allowing us to cast both of them over tonight. But certainly from the UPL, from Maryville and Dark Matter, from myself, Rebel Fox, Z, and Nick, and the rest of the production team, I want to thank you, and I will see you again on the Rift.